Hey everybody, so in this video I'm going to walk through, starting from scratch, how to build this thing in Fusion 360. The goal is to make it built on parameters so we can change any of the values later on. We want to make this, we're going to try and follow these plans as closely as we can. It might be slightly different, but we'll try and match it as much as we can. But I do want to make it like fully modifiable, so wherever I can, I'm going to add in some parameters. That way I can just update some values later on if I feel like I want to change things or change the aesthetics. It'll be very easy to change. So let's open up Fusion 360. And if we go into our modifier, we're going to start doing some parameters. So we need to have a few parameters on here. I think we're going to have 5. Oh, if you're like me, you forgot to change these settings for your work. We're going to work in our freedom, our inches here. So if you see this pop up, that's just like a good reminder that we should go into document settings and change this to, actually kind of like working in millimeters, but I feel like in woodworking, it's just easier to do it in inches. Like it works better with other, anyways, I do kind of like using millimeters is my point though. So let's go to wood thickness. That's going to be our first key parameter that we need to have, because it's going to depend a little bit on like what type of wood we have access to and how thick that wood ends up being actually. So let's make sure width, we can find this number from the diagram. It talks about some, or from the plans, 25 inches for front to back. Then we need 15 inches for, I'm going to call that the right side, and then 13 inches for the small side. So let's do, we're going to do left height is going to be 13. We're going to make right height is going to be 15. We need to have depth, so I'm going to refer to depth as being like the front to back of the actual thing. So when we look at this, we're looking at the kind of from the front of this to the back is going to be our 12 inches. We can adjust this a little bit more. I think they chose 12 because that's the size of the wood that they're using. They're using a 1x12, so I think they're making the bed of this thing 12 inches, which means it might actually be a little bit deeper than 12. Because 12 would only really count to where this wood piece is, and then it would go a little bit further back from that. So maybe be a little bit larger, but this will be a value we can change. But we'll keep it as 12 for right now. Okay, so that should be all of our values for this. There's gonna be a lot of different ways that we can do our planes. Let's start though. I just want to think about like looking at this thing top down. So let's go in and we're going to create a sketch. Do have this set up so we're looking from the top. I can select this so we can really like keep our 3D model kind of oriented in space in the kind of like inappropriate way. So the top, looking from the top, is actually the top of our model. Okay, in our sketch here, we are going to do, let's see, we want to do some rectangles in here. There's a lot of different ways that we could do this. We want to focus on the origin point as like our center, as like our starting point. So anything we build should start from there. I'm going to start this. There's a good way that I could do this. I'm actually going to do this in a slightly bad way. Ideally, I'd really want to have my origin point actually be, I would really want this to be in the back left of this, because it's going to make creating our other planes a little bit easier. But yeah, okay, so I'm going to do it but I'll show a different way of doing it because I want it to be flexible. Even though I could show you like the best way, I want to show you a way that can also be a little more flexible in case you didn't do this the correct way to begin with, or if you don't know, just skill you might have to have. So let's start with, we need to have this shape drawn in here. So I'm going to do a rectangle like this. I'm not worried about it being accurate. Sizing wise, I just want it to be approximately in the right spot. We're going to do right. Actually, I want this to be, I'll do a right like this. I'll do a rectangle starting there. It's going to go down to, and I'm going to purposely not put this right on the line. I want to put this here. And if I want these two lines to be in the same, like an extension of this line would run through this one, I can go into my constraints and select collinear. That means these are both going to be like kind of on the same line. So if I select those two, these lines should now be in the same spot. And I should be able to drag all these things around. Everything's going to be updated just right. And then I also want to have one more rectangle that's going to be the base of this. Okay, so that should be a good place to get started with. Let's go through and we're going to start parametering up. I think this looks good. I think this kind of matches this so far. So let's go in and we're going to start throwing in some parameters in here. I want to do front to back. We're going to go through and we're going to say this is going to be depth. All right, this thing's pulling that in already. I'm going to throw in some things in here for wood thickness. We're going to throw some more values in here for wood thickness. Make sure as you do this, just be careful about how you select. Like when you're doing dimensions, hit D to begin with to get a dimension. You can go into create sketch dimension, but it's quicker to just hit D. So you'll never see me click on that and try and find it. I'm going to click these two. Wood thickness. Okay, and so what I want to see here is, and this is going to happen to you, is like you might end up with things that are not constrained. We know they're fully constrained when they are all black. This sketch is, we have a kind of starting point of this origin, so that's our kind of anchor, and then we're building everything else off from there. So every point on here, every point on this diagram is fully kind of based on that, and then kind of spread out based on the different values we have in here. You can see, if you see something that is blue and you're not sure why is it blue, try and grab it and drag it around and think about, okay, what value am I not constraining on here? In this case, we don't have our width constrained, so I'm going to select one side, the other side, and we're going to change this to be width. And now we have everything all set up just the way we want it. Okay. All right. So actually, here's where I'm going to do some fancy stuff. And some stuff that if you followed along when I was doing this earlier in the year, you would have, yeah, we did this in a different way. I'm going to show you a good way of getting this back angle to be just right. So here's what I'm going to do. Instead of, I could extrude these pieces up, and then I could extrude this back wall up. So the back wall is going to go up here, and then it's going to be at kind of an angle on there. And that's a little bit messy. We could extrude it up and then cut off part, but actually I want to do a better version of this. So we are going to add in a sketch. I'm going to add in another sketch along the back wall of this, of my little public library thing here. So what we're going to do in here is we're going to finish this sketch. Oh, you know what? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be really responsible. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to give this a name. I'm going to rename my sketch and I'm going to call this like bottom layer. I don't know. Maybe I can do something better. Okay. Now I'm going to create a new sketch, and I really want this sketch to be. See, this is kind of like if we look from this is from our top view. We're looking down on this thing. I want a sketch that is going to be along the back wall of this thing. So let's create a sketch, and it's going to have to be in this plane, like this kind of, I think this would be the X and Z. Z is the up and down axis, X is this axis. So it will be in the X, Z plane. The problem is if I create here, that I'm creating a sketch that's actually on the front of my, library. And I really don't actually want that. I really like the sketch to, yeah, be in the XZ plane, but I really want to be kind of along the back of this library. So here's what we're going to do. Here's where we're going to do some fancy stuff. We're going to go into construct, and we're going to say offset plane. So I'm going to make a plane that is offset, kind of like spaced away from an existing plane. So let's go into here. We're going to select offset plane. I'm going to say, yes, I want it to be in the XZ plane, but how far over do I want it to be? Well, I want it to be over, so I can choose the extent. Oh, I think I can do distance, but I can also do to object. And I want to say, I want it, where do I want it? I want it to this point. That looks good. So now if I hit OK, I now have a plane that I've made right here. And now I can go in and create a sketch. And instead of on just selecting these three planes, I can now select the back plane, which means I have a sketch, a two-dimensional sketch that is going to run through this back line. And that's going to give me a really helpful shape to work off of. Let's see, some other things I'm going to have in here. If we want to have access to something from one sketch in the other sketch, right now these two are totally disconnected. The only things they have in common are the origin. Oh, actually, yeah, I guess this point I think should be in common for both, but might be actually part of the other one. Anyways, for some of these things, like I really want to have access to these. I want that point. I want this. So we're going to select P for project, and we're going to select this geometry. We're going to select this. We're going to select that back line. I'm going to grab that point. I don't know if I necessarily need to explicitly say I'm going to get that point, but just to be safe, I'm going to grab that point. I'm going to grab this point. I'm going to grab this point, and I'm going to hit OK. All right, so now we have, if I get rid of this bottom layer, now I have, this is the back. Now I'm starting to sketch in the back of my fence here, or back of my tree, my library. Okay, well, I think honestly, I might need this thing in here to just give me a little better sense of where I'm drawing. All right, so now what I want to do, I'm going to draw a line in here. I want it to be on this point. I want it to be going, I'm going to do it at an angle just to be explicit about this. All right, so let me talk a little bit about what I'm trying to do here. I really want to create, I want to create a kind of trapezoid in this sketch. That's going to be 13 inches on this side. It's going to be the length of whatever this back is. It's going to be 15 inches over here. And then I want this to be whatever that kind of diagonal, whatever length and whatever angle that needs to be at. Whatever's going to be determined by this being 13 and this being 15. So I'm going to draw in two sketch lines that are going to be right along here. And I think hopefully this will make sense as I go if it doesn't already. All right, so here's what we need to do. We are going to go into our Fusion. I drew this kind of at an angle purposefully. I want to make sure that I'm perpendicularly constraining this to the back. And then I want to do one on the other side. Let's see, we want to have a line. It's going to go through this point. It's going to be up over here. We're going to constrain. Oh, I'm going to make this as a perpendicular constraint. And then, I don't know, what do you think? How tall does this thing need to be? How tall does this one need to be? This one needs to be left height. And then this one needs to be right height. And we're going to get those two pieces. And now, if I connect a line between these two, hopefully you're starting to see where I have the back of my board here. I think I could be even fancier about, like, if I want to cut this thing, if I want to, like, this piece, we're going to have a body that's going to be a rectangle. It's going to be a rectangular piece of wood. It's going to start here. Oh, I can just like pretend to extrude it up like this. It's going to be up like this. I could do it like that, but I think I'm going to be even fancier, and I'm going to make this at an angle. I'm going to make this at a, I'm going to have a little angled cut here. So the roof that we eventually make is going to fit just perfectly on top of here. Let's take care of that a little bit here. So I'm going to do a line. I don't know if I necessarily know the best way of doing this, but let's see if I can make this part work at least. All right, so I'm going to select, I don't know if I need to have this projected. Let's just make sure I have that point projected into here. I'm going to make a line. Let's see, I'm going to have a line from, I really want a line from here, but I don't want to select the, oh, maybe I can just select. Okay, there we go, good. Now I want a line that's going to go up. Let's just do it up like that. I like to kind of put them off angle here a little bit to make sure that they, that is clear that like I'm gonna put these in. I want to specifically say here's what I want this thing to look like. So I'm going to do it kind of make it look bad to begin with. This line I want to be collinear with this one, so we're going to go into constraints. We're going to do collinear. We're going to select this and this. Great, now we have one straight line like that, but as I move this, they're going to be connected, but it's also going to be kind of in line with that. These two, I'm going to say that this one, there's a lot of different ways I can do this. I can make this perpendicular with the bottom. I'm going to say these two lines should be parallel, and then I'm just going to trim off this excess. I did say I have lost a constraint, but I don't necessarily see where that might have been. It might have been on a piece that I don't need anymore, so I think it should be good. We should be able to grab points on here and not move. I think I'm seeing both of these as being locked up, which means that they are in fact constrained. So I think I want to do this. I'm going to get this on the other side, and then I'll stop and I'll make a new video moving ahead with this. So I have one over here. I have one done on this side. I need to do the same thing here. I'm going to say this line. I'm going to purposefully do this bad. I'm going to do a line connecting from here to here. Again, I'm doing this purposefully bad because I don't want it to like just look right. I want to make this look bad, and then when I constrain it, it'll be perfect. So, maybe I'll even do this. Let's delete that line. Let's do a line so I don't have to trim anything. We're going to make a line like that. We're going to make our constraints. We're going to say this is going to be collinear with that. So we have a straight line here. And then I want to make this one parallel to this one. Boom. So now we have a sketch. We're getting pretty good here. We have this sketch. We can use a combination of these two sketches to really get our piece looking just the way we want it. And we're going to start doing some extrusion in the next video.